everyone and welcome to my reading vlog for Skulduggery Pleasant Playing with Fire. This is the second book in the Skulduggery Pleasant series and I'm so excited to be rereading this again for like the 5th time as part of the Dead Famous read along. Now before I get into this I am going to give a quick warning. This is going to contain spoilers for the entire series because I am a massive great big fan of these series. I can't really talk about full spoilers to do with the entire series until we have read them, so I thought I'd get it out in reading vlogs instead. So if you have not read the entire series or you care about spoilers in any sort of way, do not watch this. But if you have read up to book 9, then go ahead and watch this because it's going to have spoilers all the way up to the 9th book in this series when I'm talking about this book. So let's get going. So I'm only just a chapter in and I love the introduction to Scapegrace because obviously he's such a fun ongoing character throughout the entire series. I love reading about him because he's always just so funny because he's so certain he's going to be the killer supreme and all the rest of it, and instead he's just a bit of a mess and a bit of a wimp, and I love it. I really love the introduction to Scapegrace, and I love how this book just starts straight in on the action, and I just really find Scapegrace funny. Quite frankly, that's the only thing I've got. Scapegrace is hilarious. Just got the first mention of Lord Vile and I'm just like, here we go. I mean, it's not going to happen for another couple of books yet, but I still love the fact that we've just got this first mention of Lord Vile and him being one of the most trusted generals of Malevolent. I can't say his name, Malevolent, but it's just that moment of going, yep, here we go. I love seeing the foreshadow in these. I genuinely love reading all of the foreshadow and all of the build up to Lord Vile. Love it so much. What I find so interesting in this one is that, and all the books going forward as well until we get the Lord Vile reveal, is the fact that every time Lord Vile is mentioned, after the first time he's mentioned, when he's mentioned as one of Baron Vengeance's top generals, after that, every single time, or nearly every single time he's mentioned, it's mentioned that Skulduggery was dead for those 5 years. And it's sort of every single time they make sure that you know that Skulduggery was dead and Lord Vile was running around. And I really love that sort of really subtle hint that it's him that you don't even twig until it's actually revealed in book 5, I think it is. Book 4, book 5. Whichever one it is, you don't actually realise what they're saying until that moment, and that nobody else has clicked either. I love that. I genuinely love it so much. It was such cool foreshadow that I really didn't see coming, and it completely blindsided me, and I love it. I absolutely love the scene where they make Scapegrace think that that Tanith is going to suck his brains out so they can get the answers, and he's so terrified. I love that scene so much. It's so funny. It really sets up Scapegrace to be this absolutely ridiculous comedic sort of relief villain type person. I absolutely love it, and I also love the fact that we've now gotten to Rawhaven as well, because obviously it's such an important place. To see more of it as the series goes on and see it sort of build and build and build into what it becomes in the end, I can't stop loving this book. I cannot stop loving this book. I just love everything. I think I may have found a Doctor Who reference, but I could be wrong. It depends on when this was written. It must have been written around the same sort of time that the episode aired, but I'm specifically talking about page 133, where it said that a spider struck Valkyrie on the back and clings on, trying to pierce her coat with its talons. And my first thought was Turn Left, you know that episode of Doctor Who with Donna where she's got the thing on her back and it changes everything, or makes her make a different decision, so she turns left instead of right, and she then doesn't meet the Doctor and it ends up with a huge load of consequences. And I'm just wondering if that was a very subtle reference. Obviously it doesn't go down that route, and we don't end up with alternate realities, not in this one anyway. We do in book 7, I think it's 7, one of the later books, we do end up with that alternate reality idea. But I'm just wondering if that was a subtle reference, because obviously we do know that Derek Landy has got a lot of references in here to various bits of pop culture. These first 2 books don't have that many, admittedly, but there are still quite a few throughout the books, and I'm just wondering, was that a reference? I think it was a reference. I'm gonna say it was a reference. I love it when they switch the reflections around, so they kill the reflection instead of Valkyrie to make the torment tell them what they need to know. But it's just this fact of going, it all goes wrong with the reflection, and just sort of semi-cringing knowing that everything with the reflection just goes horrendously wrong, and it kind of starts here. It's just like, eek. Just knowing what's coming. Knowing what's coming is fun, but at the same time, whenever you see like the events that lead up to the bigger events, it's always like, oh no. It's just that sense of foreshadow without it actually being foreshadow. You know what I mean? It's just that moment of going, oh god, this is gonna end badly every single time. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I do have a small thing here which I'm wondering is, and that is, when Vengeance has got the armour on, why doesn't it react to Skulduggery when Skulduggery walks in? Because it's his armour. I mean, I know it spikes out, but it's kind of like, I kind of wanted it to react. I know it would have spoilt like the surprise plot twist in a couple of books when it turns out he is Lord Vile, but it's just like, why didn't it sort of react to him, or why didn't he call it back? Because that would have saved a whole lot of time if he did. But that's just me. I'm also wondering what would have happened if the Grotesquerie had actually come alive at this point in chapter 22 and then attacked Valkyrie. Would Darkess have come out? Genuinely, would Darkess have come out, or would it have backed away because she is Darkess? Just wondering. Genuinely just wondering what would have happened then if it had all gone wrong. Would it have gone even wrong? Like even more wrong? That is a question. I'll probably never know the answer to it, but it's fun wondering. We've also, just in chapter 25 as well, it switches to New York, and it says that they're crossing Bleecker Street and followed them up on Hudson Street, and I'm going to say that's a reference as well, because Bleecker Street is where Doctor Strange lives in the Sanctum Sanctorum. And while the film definitely wasn't out then, he was still a comic book character. And quite frankly, he is a sorcerer. And this guy is tailing, not tailoring. He's tailing sorcerers, right? So I'm just like, that's deliberate. That was without doubt deliberate, because we know that Derek Landy is a huge comic book fan as well. And we also know that he has written for Marvel, so he clearly knows who Doctor Strange is, so I'm going to say that is also a reference. It's amazing just how often they end up with the vampires in the sea. It's just practically every book. I still find that quite amusing. They just end up in the sea every 5 minutes. I mean, it's one way to get rid of vampires, so I don't really mind, but it's just quite funny. Also, I really don't like the torment. I know you're not supposed to, but I really don't like spiders. I have a real thing against spiders, so I'm just a bit like, the whole way through any spider chapter, and that was a big spider chapter with big spiders. I'm just a bit now, I've got to admit. So I have just finished playing with fire, and yet again, as I always say, I do love this book just like I love this series. I do love the storyline of this one. I do think that maybe there should have been a little bit more with Baron Vengeance, and maybe making him a little bit like more difficult to kill in that final bit, and maybe make the Grotesquerie a little bit more harder to kill at the end. But apart from that, I still really enjoyed this book, like I always do. I love like the character dynamics. I love how much like it sets up for future books in terms of Billy Ray Sanguine and the Diablerie, and obviously the Faceless ones and the Ancient ones and all the rest of it. I love that we get our first mention of Lord Vile. My only thing is, why, when they were fighting Vengeance in Vile's armour, why couldn't Skulduggery take over? Like, why couldn't, like, I know it would probably wake up Lord Vile inside of him, but it was kind of like, you could have maybe controlled it or something, because that would have been obviously a good way to solve things maybe. But that's really my only sort of question, complainty type of thing, because obviously it doesn't really bother me that much, because obviously that was a plot line for later, and it couldn't really come out in this book, because obviously this book is only book 2, and if we explained everything in the first couple of books, there wouldn't be a story. So I'm not particularly bothered about it, I'm just questioning. But Apart from that, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I cannot wait to continue reading it, and I've given it 4 stars. And with that, that is the end of this reading vlog. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below if you've read this book and what you thought of it. I'll also leave a link down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics. If you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!